In a more genteel and polite time, I would be asking the women and young ladies in the audience to step out of the room so that I could have a conversation with the men. But given where we are right now, I clearly don't have that ability on YouTube. So I'm just going to give that warning ahead of time. This isn't going to be one of those feel-good videos again. Now, I made a video a week or two ago talking about where to be, where not to be when shit hits the fan. Caught a lot of crap for it. A lot of people are under this delusion that they're going to hole themselves up out in the middle of nowhere simply because it's the middle of nowhere and they think the populated areas are going to be dangerous. Generally speaking, that's a good idea. But there is a caveat that I don't think a lot of people have thought about, and I'm going to try to cover it in this video and just be straight up with you guys about how it's going to play. And this is how it's going to go. The one thing most survivalists don't ever consider is this. When shit hits the fan and the US government collapses and they don't have the ability to take control of and maintain control of the prisoners, they're going to let them out. I know it sounds like the absolute backward-ass stupid thing to do, but if they can't feed them and they can't maintain them and they don't have the guards showing up for work, they're going to open the doors. And if they don't, these guys will find a way out. Now, why should you be worried about that? This is why. There are 2.3 million people confined right now in this country. Roughly half of those are for violent crimes and other things I'm not going to mention here. They're just going to be let walk. This doesn't include the people that have already been released from prisons that are basically behaving because they're afraid of going back to prison. Now, there are only less than 1 million law enforcement officers combined in all states. Basically, the numbers are this. For every 1 law enforcement officer, there are 4 convicted violent criminals. Put another way, 1 law enforcement officer for every 4 square miles of the United States, where there are 4 thugs for that same amount of area to cover. Now, law enforcement is going to be forced to choose and make some hard choices about where they're going to have to put their resources. And it ain't going to be your farm out in the middle of nowhere. Once again, you ask, why should I be worried? They're going to be in the middle of all of the big populated areas. For a minute, you're right. But here's how it's going to play. The first thing they're going to do, once they realize nobody's going to stop them from doing anything they want to do, is they're going to go get down to their local car dealers and they're going to get a whole bunch of these and the keys so that they have transportation. The next place they're going to stop is, of course, the gas station, where all of you are already lined up anyway with your gas cans. Now, having already stopped here and gotten all armed up and ready to go, they're just going to take your gas cans and they're going to fill them up and they're going to load up their cars and they're going to be able to do whatever the hell they want to do. The next place they're going to stop here is at the pharmacy, and they're going to put a gun to the head of every pharmacist in, whatever region they're in, and they're going to get loaded up on pain pills and whatever the hell else they want to get high on. The next place they're going to stop is here, and they're going to raid the liquor stores. And they're probably going to stop and get some cigarettes along the way. Then, after they've taken and they've loaded up with whatever foodstuffs that they've found at different places and have taken at armed, killed people or whatever, they're going to go try to find some place they can hide out. You see, and when they go to the gun store to get their arms, if the smart ones are going to find a list of who that gun store sold stuff to, and where they can find even more guns. And more than likely, when they find places like this, they'll find vast prepper supplies ready to go. And there ain't going to be no 911 to call. And if you think you have enough rounds by yourself or your little group, you're out of your mind. These guys are going to come in force. They're going to come 2, 3, 4, 5 dozen at night. And you're not going to be able to get all of them. You'll get a couple of them, maybe. But they won't care. They will not care. They're going to be high as a kite, and they're going to want to be as far away from law enforcement as possible to do their dirty deeds. And this is where they're going to go. Because they're going to have unending access to vehicles, unending access to fuel, and they're going to turn into little mafias. And believe me, the cops are going to be taking care of government officials, government infrastructure, and they'll get some of these guys, yeah, but they're not going to get all of them. And this is where they're going to go hide out. If you think you're going to hide up at one of these farms, you're going to be these guys right here on their knees. And this group of guys over here is going to be the ones that come take everything that you have out in the middle of nowhere. Now, are these places I have laid out in green going to be perfectly safe? No. But this is where the U.S. is going to prioritize putting law enforcement. Because these are the wealthiest areas in the country. And that's just the reality. It ain't right. It ain't nice. You would think that everybody would be entitled to the equal amount of protection of the... When shit hits the fan, human nature is going to take over. And the wealthiest areas of this country are going to be the ones that get prioritized for protection. They aren't going to let shit fall apart in Florida so that people in Iowa can be safe. They're going to let it go to hell in the flyover states. And the criminals know this. They got nothing better to do than to sit around all day in their cells, day after day, week after week, year after year, planning this, planning their, retribution against the evil, law-abiding folks of this country who have put them in prison for doing what they've done. All the didn't-do-nothings. All of the innocents who got this shit planned out. And they don't care. You might think, they're going to get their head blown up. They don't care. They take a handful of oxys, and they got a big brand new car full of gas, and they got their weapons, and they got their liquor. And the reason that I asked a lot of folks to step out is this hard part right here. If you're willing to bet your life that I'm wrong, go ahead. But if I'm wrong, there's going to be the young women in your life that are going to pay, because there's something so much worse waiting for them when these guys get free. You might think you'd be able to defend them yourself. Don't be that arrogant. I've had to swallow the pride and say, look, there's guys out there. I can't be awake 24 hours, 7 days a week. You're going to have to get someplace where there is protection if you care about them, the young women in your life. Because these guys are going to be gunning for them too. It's going to be real high up on their list. And remember something. The law enforcement is outnumbered 4-1. And you're going to be outnumbered. You're going to be out in the middle of nowhere. And these guys are coming. This is a lot the reason that you see people in government want to get guns off the streets. I'm not an anti-gunner. Don't take this the wrong way. But there's people out there that know that day is coming when the U.S. is going to lose control. And when the U.S. is going to lose control, there's going to be millions of some of the most heinous, nasty, dirty individuals that are going to have free run. And they're going to get their ride, They're going to get their gas. They're going to get their hardware. They're going to get their pills. They're going to get their booze. They're going to get their hideout. They're going to get rid of the people who have been so naive as to think they were going to protect that hideout. Then they're going to go after the women. And that's going to be the end of it. So I know this isn't a feel-good video, and I know there's a lot of guys out there that are still going to beat their chest and talk about how they're going to be able to gun these guys down. They're not normal human beings. They're not going to think logically like you. This is what The Walking Dead was trying to show poorly. They're not going to be a bunch of shambling zombies out there that are just going to make these perfect and pretty sight pictures for your training. They're going to have the mentality, yes, that they're not going to care, but they're going to be heavily armed, moving fast, and coming at night, and coming in large groups. So, use your head. Like, share, subscribe.